Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So today I wanted to be taking a little bit of a look at Season 5. So obviously we got some initial info about it being released probably a couple of days ago now, but since it was really kind of a very scant amount of information, I didn't really want to do a video just to say that, yeah, Season 5 is coming, because we all knew that was going to be the case. We're still pretty short on information, and there's not a great deal of stuff out there, but we do know about the 2 seasonal units that are coming, and we do know a little about the new region that is being introduced. So we can have a little bit of a look at some of the images of the new troops, take a little bit of a look at the new region, and kind of see what we think about the new units, about balancing, and about what impact they're going to have on the game, and what sort of style they're going to be based on. So the My.com article on the 15th confirmed that we were going to be getting 2 new seasonal units this season, in the season challenges. Initially perhaps a little disappointing, because I think obviously we've kind of got used to having sort of 4 or 5 in each season, but then over the last couple of days we've had some images released of the new units over on the Booming server, on the Frontier server, and it's kind of interesting to see the 2, what they look like. These are like they're calling them the Narfan Byzantine guards, something like that, and it's basically a flamethrower infantry and a grenadier infantry. I think once we start to put this into context, I think it becomes clear that it is more than likely the Byzantine Empire that these are going to be supposed to be based off. If you read the description of these guys, it even talks about the fire burning on water, and obviously this is supposed to be Greek fire, it is what I would describe it as. And I think when you start to get a look at them, they look a little bit Byzantine in kind of their style. So yeah, I think that's what this is supposed to be based off, sort of the Eastern Roman Empire, which is an interesting choice. I think particularly given we've had the Ottomans basically in the last patch, then I think it's kind of an interesting choice to move on to the Byzantines, considering they were who they basically lost to the Ottomans. Kind of makes it quite an interesting choice. The actual unit itself, I think it looks quite reasonable, although you do get sort of slight flashbacks to like a World War I trench soldier with a flamethrower, but then maybe that's just me. In terms of actual balancing, I think it's going to be an interesting unit. Looking at this unit compared to the other, I suspect it's going to be the higher tier of the 2, probably going to be the tier 5 unit. How are they going to balance the damage of the flamethrower? I mean, obviously, if you don't have fireproof, then you're certainly going to be burned. Are they going to make it so that it passes through the fireproof ability? I mean, if they do, I think that's probably going to be a bad thing. Hopefully, units that are classed as fireproof will still continue to be fireproof, and it will just apply sort of a base damage without actually applying the sort of extra burn damage that you get associated with like fire archers or something. So that's going to hopefully be the case, and if it is the case, then I guess they're probably going to apply a fairly high base damage just at very close range. Whether they provide any stun or knockback associated with that, probably not, I suspect. It's going to be an interesting unit, and I suspect it's probably going to be a unit that doesn't have a great deal of numbers in its squad. Hopefully it's just going to stay small, and then it's going to be a fairly balanced unit. So then we move on to the second unit, these sort of Narfan Grenadiers. Again, kind of an interesting choice. Going to be, well, we don't know how exactly they're going to play out. I suspect they're going to work a little bit like a short-range falconetti, kind of tossing these grenades. These are again fire grenades. It talks about the sort of this Greek fire sort of seeping through the armor plate of enemy units. Again, the slight concern there is that it's going to bypass the sort of fireproof trait. Again, hopefully not. These do look like perhaps the lower tier of the 2 units. They look like they've not got a lot of armor, so they look like they're going to be fairly fragile. Which could at least be something that's a benefit of them. They're going to be fairly fragile, quite easy to kill, and again, I guess you're not going to be getting a particularly large number in a unit of these. It's kind of an interesting choice for the 2 units that they've basically chosen. If this really is based on the Byzantines, then there's a pretty wide range of stuff they could have picked, and I'm not sure necessarily flamethrower troops and grenadiers are the 2 units that most people would perhaps pick. At least from a balancing point of view. Not because they necessarily are going to be overpowered, because we don't know how they're going to be implemented, but it's probably 2 choices that are going to be more difficult to balance than, say, a spear or a sword unit or something as such. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this plays out. Hopefully they do a really decent job of the balancing, and then I think it's going to be an interesting choice for the units. And I mean, I also will be interested to see if they're going to be making any significant changes to the tech tree units, or if any of the tech tree units are going to be introduced, because that may be why we're getting less units in the season. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens there. I assume we're going to be getting more and more info. It seems to be more info coming out every day. So probably as, for the next couple of days, as we get a little bit more info, I'll probably do an update video on this But we'll just wait until a little bit more gathers up. I don't want to be doing one of these every day, otherwise I'm sure we'll all get fed up of them rather rapidly. And so the final thing to briefly touch on is of course the new region. Supposedly it's going to be located to the south of Bavaria. It's going to be home to many port towns. Looks like it's going to have this sort of coastal river through it. Going to be kind of interesting to see a new region introduced into the game. I know there's kind of going to probably be a bit of a mixed response on this. Some people are definitely going to be quite pleased about this. I think it's probably not a bad thing. I guess the slight worry would be is server population sufficient on, like places like EU1 and EU2 to realistically support having a bigger land in territory wars? Possibly. We'll kind of have to see how it plays out. It's certainly going to make it perhaps a little easier for some of the smaller houses, hopefully, to be able to conquer some territory because, more land, it's going to be spread among a larger number, a smaller number of people. So hopefully it should be easier for smaller houses to gain some land. But anyway, that's really kind of all we've got to cover today. It was just kind of interesting to get a bit of an initial look at those new units. Certainly going to be interesting to see how it deploys. Hopefully we're going to get more and more details kind of over the next few days, and kind of as more stuff gets released, we'll get a little bit of a better idea of what we're going to be able to expect in Season 5. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about Season 5 so far in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content, and I shall see you all on the next video.